We are honored that you could join us tonight. Thank you, everybody. Aloha and welcome to our Facebook Live tonight. Look what I got in the mail today. I just got mail just came 5 minutes ago. It's 6:53 p.m. here in Hawaii, and my wife and I just got our ballots in the mail. So we will be voting tonight and dropping it off in the voting box tomorrow. Thank you all for the kind words, Mark, Peggy, Pops. Thank you for joining tonight, Sam. Appreciate you guys. Yeah, this is important, folks. This right here is important. It's vital. Every one of you should be getting one of these. If you don't get it, you need to get one. Just call the elections office, let them know you didn't get a ballot to make sure. I know there were many occasions in the primary election that friends of mine did not get a ballot. And, some of them just didn't vote. Some of them took the time to drive in on election day and vote in person. So don't wait, guys. We get plenty of time. Open them up, vote, and then go ahead and turn it in, guys. 39%, 40% voter turnout is embarrassing. And we ain't gonna make no change if we continue to not vote. All right. So you guys know, man. It's you guys know I'm running for council, and of course I want you guys vote. But the bigger campaign is to go out and get people to vote. Part of our mission here on this show is to inform and educate. We brought on a ton of candidates from offices across the state, Democrats, Republicans. I told you guys, I don't look at D's and R's. I look at the people running. And really, for selfish reasons, who's going to make it better for my family here? Who is going to make it better for our kids? My kids are gone already. They moved. They moved to Oregon. They both live in Oregon. They're doing very well in Oregon. Most of you know this already. Most of you have met them on the show. We've had them on the show a couple of times. They're doing extremely well. And it hurts my heart when I ask them, if you guys think ever coming back to Kauai. No, they've established themselves now in Oregon. And why? Because they could not survive here. Mom and dad is not rich. I know a lot of people think I'm loaded. I'm not. We live paycheck to paycheck, just like everybody else. I think most of you know. I've always had a couple of jobs just to make ends meet. And I know what it's like, guys. And my kids weren't about to have a lesser of a quality of life and struggle like mom and dad. So they decided to move on, and they're again both very successful in Oregon. It pains me though to think that if they ever have children, our grandkids will be Oregonians and not Hawaiians or from Hawaii, and it pains me. So, guys, we try to bring out candidates to hopefully educate. We got the biggest race this year is the governor's race, governor and lieutenant governor, biggest race by far. Yes, council is important. Yes, House and Senate is important. Yes, that's all important. But we have an opportunity this year to possibly change the direction of our state. And I am honored. I'm pleased that tonight we have not just one, but two candidates for governor and lieutenant governor. We got former Lieutenant Governor Duke Aiona, along with Junior Tupa'i, who is our candidate for lieutenant governor. I met these two gentlemen. I've known the Duke for a long time. I just got to meet Junior, I guess, a month ago or so at a forum here in Kauai. Two class acts, and I invited them on, and they agreed. So we're gonna bring them on right now. We're gonna have some fun tonight, but most importantly, we're gonna learn, folks, because when it comes down to this, you need to be informed. You got to be informed. All right, so let's bring on. Let's bring on. Oops, wrong one. There we go. And Junior. What am I doing, guys? I'm losing my mind. Aloha, guys.
Hey, aloha there, sir. How are you doing? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear, Junior.
Aloha.
Oh, okay. Junior is on his phone. We've been having issues with the connections on the cell phones, so we'll try to get this done. Yeah, it's this software that I use. It's not too friendly with Safari, so if you have a laptop or if you can get onto a Chrome connection, that would be ideal. But yeah, otherwise it skips, and we don't want to lose any part of the discussion tonight, because this is, like I said, ballots are out. It actually was out earlier on Oahu. But we express to our viewers that it's vital that they learn about the candidates before they just vote on who get the best commercials or who get the name recognition, and that's what we do here tonight. So welcome again. Let me just do a sound check. Lieutenant Governor Aiona, James Richard Aiona Jr., as what the name says. How you doing, sir?
I'm doing fine. I'm doing fine, Mel. Thank you again for giving this opportunity to speak to the people of Kauai.
Well, people of Hawaii, actually, we actually got people on the mainland watching
Oh,
this
I'm
tonight.
sorry. Okay,
Yeah,
to your
yeah,
audience
yeah.
worldwide. Great.
Yeah,
That's great.
worldwide, worldwide. Junior, how are you, my friend?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you, Mel, for the opportunity tonight. Looking forward to it.
All right. Yeah, so there is a little skip on there, Junior, but we'll do the best we can. All right. So let's get started. This, like I said earlier, I think you guys may have been in the green room when I said this is the biggest election that Hawaii has seen in a very long time. No doubt. In my mind, Hawaii has been on, I guess the question to ask yourself is, are you in a better place today than you were 4 years ago, 8 years ago, blah, blah, blah? For me, the answer is no. I mean, it's really, it's just we struggle. And it's a lot of reasons. But we have an opportunity this year to change direction at the governor's level, at the state senate, at the house, and of course at the local levels with the mayors and the county councils. But by far, the most impacting election we have is the governor's race. So I want to thank you guys. Lieutenant Governor Aiona, I will go ahead and turn it over to you, and maybe you can go ahead and introduce yourself, and then we'll bring on Junior right after that.
Well, thank you, Mel, again. Aloha, everybody. My name is Duke Aiona. I am running for governor as a Republican. This, as some of you may know, is my third time running, and people ask me, "Do you feel? What are you doing differently this time?" And I'd say, with all honesty, the biggest difference this time around is I'm a lot more, I guess you could say, intelligent, which means I got more experience, which means I got more wisdom. I'm a little older, so I've had the opportunity for the last 8 years to gain a lot more knowledge and wisdom in regards to what is happening in our state of Hawaii. So, with that said, I want to also let you know that part of that reason why I feel like I'm a better place today than I was when I ran in 2014 and 2010 is because of my past experience, both as a lieutenant governor from 2002 to 2010, and then again as my tenure as a state judge for about 12 years, my profession as an attorney for well over 40 years, and a large part of that was doing mediations. And then, of course, on my personal side, grandfather of eight, husband of 41 years, and a father of four children. Numerous community, I guess you could say, endeavors, mainly as a coach, but also, in regards to the DOE, my tenure as a teacher at one of our local universities. That's been for about 10 to 12 years now. And all of that put together, I think, puts me in a place right now. As we like to say, there's a time for everything. I believe this is our time. I believe this is what I was meant to be. And this is why I'm running for governor of the state of Hawaii. Do I want to be the governor of the state of Hawaii? Absolutely. Can I make a difference? Absolutely. Do we need a change? Absolutely. And I think most of you will as Mel kind of led on and said, are you in a better place now? My question to everybody is going to be, how did the policies and the mandates that came down during this COVID period, how did it affect you? I know, I think everyone would be lying, or anyone would be lying if they said they weren't affected by the COVID policies and mandates that were employed in the last 4 years. We all have. And again, whether you agreed with it or you didn't agree with it, you were affected. You were affected because I'm sure you know somebody who might have lost a job. You may be affected because you know a business that closed. You may be affected because a loved one passed away and you weren't able to have a celebration of life. You may be affected because maybe your loved one passed away and you couldn't go into the hospital to visit with them during the last moments. You may be affected because, like me, your nephews went out to the park and all they wanted to do was play basketball, and they got cited because they were just trying to get the exercise that they needed to get. You may have been affected because when the lockdowns were semi-open, you were confused and you were told that you could go to the beach, but when you crossed to go to the beach to the park, you were stopped by police officers who told you you couldn't be there. And so, for my 80-year-old sister-in-law who was told that and nearly got cited only because they said, "Okay, Auntie, we'll let you go this time," it was total confusion. So, yes, I think all of us has been affected, and it doesn't have to be that way, and it won't be that way with the Aiona and Tupa'i administration. I know full well that a lot of the policies and the mandates that we had were a result of just a lack of trust and a lack of respect for the people of Hawaii, not trusting them to understand the severity of the COVID virus, but more importantly, not trusting them to understand that the mitigating factors that they put out there, wearing of the mask, social distancing, hygiene, staying home if you're sick, putting our most vulnerable in seclusion when they needed to be, watching them a little more closely. That all is something that we as the people of Hawaii understood, and that we didn't need government mandates or policies to tell us that. Hence, we didn't need to be locked down like we were locked down. So I want you all to just kind of remember that, because we don't need to go back there anymore, and we shouldn't. And so we need to move forward. So with that said, Mel, I got a lot more to say in regards to, and I haven't even touched upon our cost of living. I haven't even touched upon the corruption that we are now facing here in Hawaii. And so there's a lot more to talk about, Mel. And at this point in time, I think maybe you give Junior a chance to introduce himself and what he is all about.
Thank you, sir. Junior, I'm gonna be honest, man, and I think I speak for a lot of us here. We even get somebody from Kansas watching tonight, by the way. Uh, who's a Hawaii voter, though? Anyway, Junior, I'm gonna be honest, man. Not too many people knew who you were until the primary election, and when you meet somebody new, and like I did at Gaylord's at the forum that I got to meet you, you can tell right away if someone's genuine, if someone's real, if someone's sincere. That's the feeling I got, bro. I appreciate you, and since then I've got to learn more about you just by reading and listening. So thank you for joining us tonight, and let our viewers know who is Junior Tupa'i.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the opportunity again, Mel. I'm at a local church here in Panayeva on the Big Island. Before that, I was working as an instructor at our Youth Towns Academy. It's an at-risk youth program for 16 to 18-year-old high school dropouts types for about 13 cycles. And at the same time, I was also coaching football for Hilo. Before that, I got my bachelor's and my master's degree from Washington. Played football over there. We won Pac-10s in I think 2003. I'm not a politician. This is my first time running. I actually consider myself a statesman. Politics say for the next election, but a statesman thinks about the next generation. People, say, like, what are you running for? And if you look at our state constitution, Article 16, Section 4, that these public servants take when they come into office, it says, I do solemnly swear that I will support the state's constitution and the Hawaii state constitution, and I will faithfully discharge my duty to the best of my ability. So help me God. And I know that is to support and defend life and the pursuit of happiness. And whatever iteration that takes in government, whatever policy that people try to pass, if it's of the people, by the people, for the people, support the pursuit of happiness, I'm all for it. So whether as a coach, as an instructor, as a governor, all these different platforms have the same thing in common. It's all I'm looking to do, just to be a servant with a bigger broom or a bigger shovel to serve more people.
Awesome. Again, I apologize. The audio is a little choppy, but we got the gist of it. Appreciate the heart You know, I do. I appreciate the heart. I love your bringing up the Constitution, an oath that every politician takes when they take office, every elected official. Appreciate that. All right, let's get into the meat and potatoes. Um, there, you know, all politicians every year, every election season say the same thing, right? Affordable housing, drugs, crime, cost of living, the economy, and we're all gonna work on them. We're all gonna work on them. But I want to focus on the governor's race tonight because it's a very important decision that voters got to make. So I kind of wanted to highlight the issues that you folks, that you and Josh Green maybe don't see everything alike. And let's start off with housing because that's a big one. You know, Josh Green is on his commercial saying he's going to, build 10,000 homes. Um, I was on a forum earlier tonight for the Disability Council, and I said, what's the use of building 10,000 homes if 9,000 of those homes are sold to mainland people? We got to refocus our energies on our local people. So, Lieutenant Governor Aiona, why don't you touch on that? Let's start off with the affordable housing crisis that we are in right now.
You hit it right on the head, Mel. That's exactly it. Um, what my opponents and the Democrats don't understand is what the problem is. Because if you know what the problem is, you know what the solution is. And let's be honest, why are we talking about the same issue today? You said 4 years ago. We can go back further. How about we go back 10, 12 years from now and we're talking about the same issue? Housing. This is a lack of what we would call, what you're calling affordable housing. I like to do just housing that's tied in to our local market because that's the issue. The outside issues, that's the problem. The problem is that the outside influence that we're getting is affecting the price and the availability of homes in the state of Hawaii because that's where our real estate market is at. We like to call it the international market because we're getting a lot of mainlanders, a lot of people from Asia, from across the world coming in and buying property at an astronomical price, and it's driving up the cost of a house. We're not focused in on real estate. Now, if you understand real estate, you understand that real estate is tied into the local market and the local wages. And if you can focus in on that, then we've solved the problem because right now we haven't. So the solution to it is making sure that we are focused in on the local market tied to local wages. So that if we're tied into local wages, and as the local wages doubles as years go on, so does the cost and the price of the home. It'll double also. And so once we understand that, then now we're on our way to solving our problem. And one way we solve that is that we focus in on how do we build this supply. My opponent's plan is, and what the Democrats have been focusing on for the longest time is just build it out, build your way out of this problem. They're going to tell you, yes, we have problems with the permitting system, and we do. They're going to tell you it's about supply and demand, and there's no question about that. We have supply and demand issues. They're going to tell you it's about land use and the zoning ordinances, and yeah, we have issues about that also. Contested case hearings, and the list goes on. But let's just take that all away. Take all of that off the table and just say our developers now are free to build. They can build as many homes as they want. And you just touched upon it, Mel. If they were allowed to build right now in this international market that we have, and they were allowed to build, and he put a number on it. And how he can do that, I don't know. When they've never met their numbers. All you got to do is look at history and see every year, as you said, they come out with numbers. Oh, we're going to build 10,000 or we're going to build 20,000. And guess what? We're still short 100,000 or 50,000. But let's just imagine that they could just build. Who are they building the homes for? They're not building it for the local people because it's not tied into the local market at local wages. The international market is at 1.1. I don't know what it is on Kauai. It might be at 1.3, 1.4. But who's going to come in and buy it? How many of you have a story or have an experience where either you or somebody else that was trying to buy a home got outbid? got outbid by someone from the mainland or from Asia or from somewhere outside of Hawaii. And then they got outbid, not only just outbid, but they got beat by cash. We're going to put cash down on this and we're going to close within 2 to 3 months. We're going to close within 2 to 3 weeks. That's been, I've heard that story time and time and time again. So we need to focus on the local market tied to local wages. And so when we have these projects, where state funding is being used, or state assistance is being used, and these developers come in and they say, okay, we're going to need some state assistance on this. What we say is, okay, great. Now you're going to have to build some affordable housing. And the counties do this on their level. But what the counties do is they say, okay, you're going to have to build X amount of homes at a certain, at a certain price, at a certain wage. And then you have the lottery, and then the people bid, they pick the lottery, and then they buy the home. And then they buy the home, and then they keep the home, and if lock in their payment for 10, 20, 30 years, whatever it may be. And then when that 10, 20, 30 years is done and they don't have any more mortgage, they might want to sell their home. And when they sell their home 10, 20, 30 years down the line, they sell it at the international price, the international market price. They don't sell it at whatever the wage was that they bought it at and look at the value and how that may have either doubled or tripled. They sell it at higher wage. So what happens? I got a great example of that. I lived in Kapolei. It was one of those projects that we had. It was by HHFDC, Hawaii Housing and Finance and Development Corporation. They provided some funding for the developer, Watts. As a result of that, they had to build X amount of homes, what they called affordable. It was done by a lottery. A lot of those homes sold for $140,000. That was the prevailing local wage at that point in time. That was the value of the home. It was sold for $140,000. The wage at that point in time, I think of the local wage earners, was probably about maybe $60,000 to $80,000. And so it was sold at that point in time, about 30 years ago. And now today, they have the opportunity to sell it. And when they sell it now, what are they selling it at? They're not selling it, and let's just say that, and they're selling it double or triple whatever it may have increased to, what their wages may have increased to, but they're selling it at the market price. And that market price now is at $1.1 or $1.2 million. That home that they bought for $140,000. What it should be doing, this is what the condition we're going to put on the developers, that it has to be in the title, is that when they sell their home, when these people who bought it at the affordable price that they bought it at, they're going to have to sell it at that same income range that they bought it at. So if their income now is doubled, or the income range that they bought it is now doubled 20 or 30 years down the line, so is the value of the home. So the value of the home will also be sold at that price. And if it's doubled, and say it's at $140,000, then they'll sell it at $280,000. But we know that it's probably going to be triple in 30 years. So they'll still make. I beg your pardon?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. Is there somebody?
No, that was Junior. Junior just logged in on a laptop, it looks like. So
okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
yeah, it's
Okay.
nice.
Well, anyway, they'll sell it at that price. And this is how we build up this local market at the local wages. We start building it. And this is how we kind of close that hole at that bucket. Because you got to think there's a hole in the bucket, because that local home is going to go back into the international market. We want to keep it at that local bucket, in that local bucket. And one of the other ways that we build it up is through the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. So through the Department of Hawaiian Homelands, what we do is we know that it's a restricted local market. It's the Native Hawaiians. It's people who live in Hawaii. It's going to be owner occupied. And we have 28,000 people on that list. The objective is to put those 28,000 people on the land with homes. And one of the issues that they have in the Department of Hawaiian Homes that is preventing that from happening at a much greater rate and a greater number is the lease that they have. Right now, that the lease that the lessees get is a very restrictive lease. We have to unlock that value of the lease so they can use that lease for financial purposes, so that they can fund and finance their homes, so that if they're currently living on Hawaiian homelands and they have a home that's in disarray and in need of repairs and upgrade, they can use that lease. Because They can't use the house. The house is not worth much. So they got to use that lease to get the financing that they need so that they can, like I said, remodel or rebuild or do what they need to be so that home, if they have children in their lineage, can be kept with them in perpetuity. And this is how we build up this local market at local wages. And all the people that were out here in the general market now come into Hawaiian Homes. It frees up these homes and we build that local market. In addition to that, I want to make sure that a lot of the current projects that we have in regards to rentals are going to be tenant-owned buildings. So the rent that you're paying, you're the tenant. You own that building. You pay a rent that is set for years until you move out. And that way we keep the profits. We keep whatever is being paid to the rent, not to some wealthy owner outside who is making money off of you. Because when you rent, as you well know, all you're doing is paying off the mortgage for somebody else, but you keep it with you, with the owners of that building. Now, these are just some of the ideas in our solution that is going to be implemented. But the bottom line with our program, with our solution, is that we need to get elected to implement this solution. We don't get elected, what I just talked about is not going to happen. Because what's going to happen is my opponent's going to do what they've always been trying to do, which is to build their way out of it. And it just doesn't work. And it hasn't worked for the last, like I said, 4, 8, 12 years. All you got to ask yourself is, why are we still talking about this problem today?
Junior, welcome back. I'm so happy because your Wi-Fi signal was almost zero. I'm thinking, uh-oh. So thank you for doing the connection. I got a question for you, Junior. You have no political experience, but you're running with a gentleman who was the former lieutenant governor for 8 years. What is that like? Are you learning? Just listening to the lieutenant governor speak about the housing issue. How are you like learning a lot every day?
It's been amazing just being around with Duke. He is a consummate mentor. He is his political acumen and the way that he sees things, and just seeing him in all the different demographics or different coalitions we meet with or unions, whatever, to see him in these different environments and how he articulates and his just the ideologies he moves. It's been amazing. I mean, I'm so fortunate to be running with him, including me in everything. We talk every day, truly, and we're on each other every day, whether canvassing, going to meet and greets, doing all these different town halls, whatever it is. But it's been amazing for me. This is something that's invaluable. I mean, this is priceless, and it's just been a huge blessing for me as no one who has no experience, And people say, what qualified you to run, Junior? I said, what qualifies, an airlines pilot to be a United States congressman? What qualifies a doctor to be lieutenant governor? What qualifies a real estate agent to be a representative? And they just see the need in the state and they put their name on the ballot. But for me to have Duke, it's words can't express how I feel, and I just feel blessed and extremely humble.
Yeah, well, you may not have experience in elected office, but definitely no shortage of experience in life and common sense and the servant mentality, which I think is critical. I think you're in the right place at the right time. That's just my humble opinion. I kind of wanted to talk on a couple other issues. One of the big issues that come up is tourism, over tourism, and I always say, when we were in the tourism promotion mode, we were doing better than when we are now in the tourism management mode. They came with this switch. We had the Mr. DeFries on our show to explain to our viewers the switch to tourism management, but we're not seeing it on Kauai. We're seeing an over explosion of tourism now. We're seeing higher numbers than we've ever seen arriving, and our infrastructure just simply cannot tolerate it. Your opponent talks about a visitor climate fee. So it sounded really good, like we're gonna charge our visitors, and he gave two reasons. Number one, it was gonna raise a lot of money. Number two, it was gonna cut down the number of tourists, and only the tourists with money was gonna come. Well, that's not true.
Mhm.
But I guess my question for you, Lieutenant Governor Aiona, is number one, because all that I've read about this climate fee is not even legal. Uh, what? And you're a former judge and attorney. Is that even legal to? It's a tax. That's what it is. It's really a tax. Um, what are your thoughts on this climate fee?
Well, first and foremost, I don't agree with it, and it is a tax. It's nothing more than a tax, and I think he's correct if he were to say that it's going to discourage tourists from coming. I think he's correct. Is that his goal? Is that his objective? And of course, does he have a metric for that? In other words, if you impose a $50 tax on tourists, in other words, they get on the plane and they're taxed just because they're getting on the plane to come to Hawaii. And now let's make we got to make a distinction too. Are you gonna allow people who have been longtime residents that maybe moved away for a year and now want to come back? Are they tourists or are they residents? And are you going to make that distinction? And I think that's what you're talking about in regards to the legality of it all. And all I can say is that yes, they will be voting. They'll be voting with their feet, and they're not going to come back again. We have so many fees and taxes on our tourists that at this point in time, they are actually voting with their feet and moving away. Now, if that's your goal, then go right ahead and tax away. In fact, do more than that. In fact, do more than $50. Make it $100. Make it $1,000. And then if you're going to start discriminating in regards to how much that fee will be if you come from, let's just say, if you come from Europe, or if you come from California, if you come from New York, then it'll be even better, and we can keep them away. I don't think that's the goal. I don't think that's the objective. Think about it this way, Mel. How many people are employed in our lodging and hotel industry? How many? A huge percentage of our population is employed that way. How many businesses are related to that? Restaurants, even grocery stores, etc. How many are related to that? And so the tourism industry is our industry. Let's just be honest about that. Can we manage it? I think we can, and I think we should. And I think they're going in the right direction when they do that. Now, what I am in favor of, I'm in favor of what they call impact fees. In other words, if it's at a state park or a county park or a trail, as long as that fee is reasonable and it's going towards the maintenance and the upkeep and the improvement of that attraction, whether, like I said, it's a beach or a park or whatever it may be, I'm all in favor of that. And I think our visitors are also in favor of that. I think one thing that we learned from tourism, from the pandemic, is when we had our shutdown, is that we saw what it did to the resources, how it kind of rejuvenated it. It gave it back some of the life that it maybe had lost because of the amount of people. And that goes both ways, tourism as well as local people, who are not always the best stewards that they can be when it comes to our trails and our parks and our beaches. So again, be honest with that. So maybe the local people should be paying impact fees also, so that they can understand what it means to be better stewards. I'm throwing that out just because we have to have an honest discussion about this. We have to make sure that if we're going to manage tourism, we do it in the right way. And we just don't try to punish people for coming to Hawaii. So that green fee that he's talking about, and again, look, come on, just look at the title of it, the green fee. Tell me that's not political pandering. And why is it all about just more funds and more funds? Always looking on the revenue side. How come we're not looking on the spending side and how we're spending our money and how we're using it, how we can be much more efficient in how we spend it, but also how we prioritize our spending. Where is it going? Is it going to DLNR? Is it going to our parks? Is it going to our trails? Where is it going? Is it going more towards ag? Where are our monies going? So I think first and foremost, when you ask me that question about that impact fee, or that impact tax, I should say, or that green tax that he's talking about, yeah, I'm not in favor of it. Do I think there may be some legal challenges? Yes, I do. There's no rhyme or reason to it in regards to the pricing and what it's trying to accomplish. But most importantly, it's about just political pandering, more of that. Tourism is here to stay. It is our number one industry. We have to manage it better. We have to work together because we've got too much in stake in it. And now for Kauai, what that means is the state and the counties have to get together, and we're gonna have to make sure that we can get a better model going on and a better way to manage it. Remember now, everything that we have is not only for us today, but for what we need in the future. And so we as residents also have to set that model in regards to how do we best be stewards of everything that we have.
Well, no disagreement there. I mean, with the locals and how they handle our resources sometimes shameful. Junior, one of my concerns and many concerns of the people here in Hawaii, and especially here on Kauai, is every place has a capacity. There is a capacity that your infrastructure can withstand. And I mean, Oahu is a lot bigger, but for a place like Kauai, we still have 2-lane highways. We got deteriorating wastewater and water systems. I mean, it's just we are over capacity. And my concern was, will the state ever do a capacity study for each county to say, okay, this is really what the prime number of visitors per year based on your existing infrastructure, so we can forecast where we need to be to start inviting more guests. What are your thoughts on a capacity study, so we know exactly what can we really safely and without much disruption to our local people? What is that capacity? You think about that at all?
No, actually, that's great. I mean, you have to have foresight. We have to use wisdom as far as what is the measure or what is the capacity, as you're saying, for each respective island. Even with that, people are going to ask. The next question is, where's the funding going to come from for these different types of things? And a lot of times we feel like a lot of these different departments, they already have the necessary funding to do certain studies like this. I think we need to do is actually run independent management audits and financial audits to see where the money is to fund and appropriate different mechanisms to study this, like capacity and things like that. But I do feel like, yes, we, like Duke was saying earlier, we have to be good stewards of the land. Our state motto, Mauke'el, Ka'aine Kapono, the life land is perpetuated in righteousness. Part of that righteousness is to be good stewards. And that's only being diligent, and that's using wisdom as far as to see the capacity of each, respective island and adjust as necessary, with the studies. But as far as funding, I do believe, there is funding there, but we have to we have to do something as far as, I don't know if I'm articulating it correctly, but yeah.
Let me if I can add to that. I see some people saying, is 10.4 million people tourists a year sustainable? Well, why don't you guys answer that question? Is it or is it not? Let's ask the next reasonable question. So how do you limit? And you asked that question, Mel, should the state do a feasibility study? Well, if the state did a feasibility study, it would have to be, I guess, if you're talking about 10.4 million people, and if that's what we got, if that's what we're going to get. We're not at that point right now for this year. But let's just say that I think that was maybe one of our highest totals that we had. How do we conduct that sustainability study? And let's just say it's not. Let's just say it's they come back with a study that says it's 8 million. How do we do that? Do we tell the airlines, okay, you guys have only an allotment of X amount of passengers a year? Do we now put a moratorium on the hotels and say, you guys can't build any more rooms, no more hotels are going to be built, and in fact, those that are existing right now, you're going to have to cut your hotel rooms in half because we can only allot these many people a year. How do we go about doing that? I'm not saying that that it shouldn't be done. All I'm saying is, how do we go about doing that? If that's going to be the metric, if that's the measure, a number, a feasibility study, I think is more than just a number. I think you would agree with that, Mel, right? So I'm all for it. I mean, we can, yeah. I mean, and I think that's what they're trying to accomplish right now when they talk about managed tourism and what kind of tourists are we looking for. No doubt about it, tourists have to be educated. They have to be understanding in regards to our culture and what our natural beauty is. No doubt about that. But again, when you try to put a number in it, I have a problem with trying to put a number on something and capping it. I just don't know how you do it. You do it through airplane seats. You do it through hotel rooms. How do you do that? And would that be legal if we said, okay, we did a feasibility study, we determined that we can only have 8 million tourists a year for it to be sustainable. Let's just say that's all agreed to. How do we do that? Only X amount per month, knowing that we have busy season during these certain months, we allow more in that month, and the other months we only allow that much more. I don't know if there's a model out there that does it like that. I really don't. But again,
Yeah,
these are questions that we have to ask.
yeah, I don't think there's too many models because I think a lot of people aren't as behind in the infrastructural needs as we are here in Hawaii. I think we've kicked the can down the road so long. I mean, here on Kauai, and this is for me, I think what I would like to see, and I'm selfish. I'm talking about Kauai. You get Oahu, you guys can handle a lot of people. You guys get a lot of stuff.
No, not necessarily.
Yeah, but like when the airlines are looking to bring in more flights to Kauai, the community has absolutely no say, zero. If you wanted to build a hotel, you would have to go through the process, which would include in the zoning process, it would include a public hearing, community comment, in almost anything that you want to do. But as far as the visitor industry, United, let's say we want to bring in 2 more direct flights from LA. It happens, and we celebrate it, and it's a good thing if you're looking at the dollars. But at the end of the day, when you look at when it's taking me an hour to travel a mile and a half because we just cannot, we here on Kauai, I'm talking about Kauai, we just cannot we cannot sustain this, and it doesn't stop. It continues to happen. So I'm saying, doesn't it make sense to allow the community to have a say in how this island grows?
I mean, and why isn't that happening? Why has that not happened, Mel? I mean,
Yeah, and
it's
that's
county
right.
rule. When it comes to things of this nature, it should be county rule. And if you're saying that you don't have a say in regards to flights coming in, who's the controlling agency with that?
I'm told it's the feds and the state, right? It's the feds that control the plane routes, and it's the state that controls the airport gates, and that's kind of how it is. County has, until that person gets his rental car and gets on a county road, we really have no say, and that's not one of the things that I would hope we could at least explore, at least
Well,
discuss.
absolutely, you should have a say in regards to what you believe you have your capacity is at, what you can what's sustainable for the island of Kauai. But then I go back to my previous discussion in regards to, okay, now how do we what do we control? How do we control it? I mean, if I hear you correctly, you're saying, okay, you got too many cars on the road right now. Does that mean you build more roads? I don't think that's what you're saying. I think what you're saying is that, okay, we're going to have to cap the amount of people coming in. So that means take away flights. So you take away flights that are coming into Kauai, and that should be part of the answer to what I guess you're raising in regards to how do you control tourism, or how do you keep your infrastructure and as well as your resources sustainable. And I think that's something that every community should have a say in, and if not a say in, but actually to be able to control and manage that. I don't see why that can't happen.
Yeah,
And I'm
and
all
that's all my point is, and
yeah.
and it's very hard to unring a bell that is already rung.
Yeah, no, I understand that. I understand that.
But yeah, I mean, it's something that I think we should at least have a say.
Well, the
That's
discussion
something.
needs to be made, and I think it's happening right now. And it's not something that should be coming down from the top. And this is the way it's going to be. Obviously, though, I think you would admit with me as well as everybody else that tourism is our industry. We need to make sure that we keep it as efficient and as robust as it can be, and at the same time make sure that we can manage it to the point where we're not overburdening not only our resources but also just the infrastructure that we currently have. So I think we're all in agreement with that, and we can move forward with that, and let's start with
Yeah,
that and then see where we go from there. But I know somebody else wants to ask a question about, well, how do you expand the economy? I don't know if you want me to say a few things on that, but
Yeah, I before I just really, because you mentioned something earlier about this state, or your opponent constantly talks about generating revenue, generating revenue, generating revenue. It just seems like that's all. It's about how much more money can we squeeze out of everyone. And yeah, I'm like, whoa, go easy, cowboy. One of the things, and this is going to probably upset a few of my supporters, probably lose some votes, but this is the reality. I saw on the debate the question about legalizing recreational marijuana, and I'll let you repeat your response. But Josh Green is supportive of legalizing recreational, not medical, recreational marijuana, because of the financial, because of the money that we will be able to generate in taxes. Now, again, you know where I stand on this, but should money be the driving factor for making decisions that it may impact our society?
I would hope the majority of the people say no on that one. And my reasons for opposing that are based on my experience as a circuit court judge, also a prosecutor, and somebody that's been involved with drug use and drug abuse, as well as alcohol use and alcohol abuse. And I see what these drugs do to our people. In the case of marijuana, it's uncontroverted that the ingredients in marijuana will have a profound effect on brain development of our young people. I think, as you all know, brain development for males are usually not completed to about 26, 27, 28 years old. Females are a little less than that. And it has a serious effect on it. In fact, there's many studies that link the use of marijuana and the frequency of marijuana to dementia later in life. Likewise with alcohol. Now, alcohol, I'm not going to turn back the clock on that and say I'm not a prohibitionist and say it should not be, it should be illegal. But I'm telling you right now that alcohol is the number one drug of choice for our young people, as well as a lot of adults. And that has such a negative impact. When you look at the impact that alcohol has had in regards to the people who have died, all you got to do is look at traffic accidents. The people who are now, who have abused it and are, living that life of recovery right now, who've had the physical ailments that go along with it. It's just tremendous. It's in the billions of dollars that we lose every year because of that. Marijuana is no different. And so my other concern with that is the fact that I know that it is a gateway drug. I can tell you that from anecdotally, from my experience in drug court as a prosecutor, when I would prosecute these cases and look at the defendants and their history. Very few people who abuse drugs are just doing marijuana. But that was the start of it. That was the start to their use of cocaine and amphetamines and heroin and a lot of the other drugs that they're now using and that they became hooked on. Well, yeah, there's other aspects to it. I mean, there's other factors of why they use drugs and why they get to where they're at. We're not talking about that. We're talking about now, what are you going to say? When you legalize it, what are you saying? You're saying, hey, young people, it's okay. It's all right. This drug's okay. You can go ahead and use it. Oh, we're going to say, oh, as long as it's done in moderation. What is moderation? Really, what is moderation? You talk about that a lot when it comes to somebody's diet. You say, well, you can eat chocolates and you can have sugary sweets, but, just do it in moderation. And that's why what's one of the biggest problems we have in Hawaii? Obesity, diabetes, a lot of those problems. So why are we going to legalize something now that is going to be so detrimental to our young people and to the future when it just doesn't have to be that way? So I'm definitely not in favor of it. And yes, it is all about the money. It's all about the money. There's no other reason for it. Look, right now we've decriminalized marijuana to the point where if you're caught with marijuana, you get a citation. In fact, most police officers won't even arrest you for it. I mean, they won't even cite you for it. Unless you're being a little obnoxious with it. You're doing it, in a way that is really infringing on other people, and it's just disturbing. Or it's done in conjunction with another crime. A more serious crime regarding property or assaults. Then you might get cited for that. But other than that, it doesn't even happen. So it's an issue that when they talk about it, they go, well, people are getting arrested for marijuana and they're getting thrown in jail. That's just not true. In fact, all you got to do is look at the latest report that the Department of Public Safety put out, because Joe Biden did something this past week, I believe it was, or last week, where he said, I got a blanket pardon for anybody that was arrested for marijuana. I'm going to pardon all of you guys. And Ige said, okay, I'll follow that policy, but I'll only do it for the people who have been put in jail, that were arrested for marijuana and put in jail. And guess what? There's no cases like that. There's no cases where somebody was arrested just for marijuana, at the amount that they're talking about right now, was put in jail. It just doesn't happen. I can tell you that anecdotally from when I was on the bench. And I never came across a case. First of all, I never came across a case that somebody was actually charged and came before me just for promoting detrimental drug in the third degree. It was always with something else, whether it was paraphernalia, whether it was because of a burglary, or whether it was because of a robbery or an assault or whatever it may be. But I never had any of those cases. And 9 times out of 10, even if they came with other charges tied into that, I would allow them to be put on probation and get the help that they need to help. That was first and foremost with me, as well as many of my other colleagues. So in regards to that question, Mel, I am definitely not in favor of legalizing marijuana for all the reasons that I stated. And I believe that it would be a serious, serious mistake if we were to allow it to be legalized.
Yeah, Melissa talks about it helping PTSD. We're not talking about medical.
I'm not talking about medical marijuana. See, you're confusing the issue, and that's what I mean. How they're trying to be divisive on this, and they're trying to mislead people. We're not talking about medical marijuana. In fact, I'm in favor of medical marijuana. We have some quirks. We have some big quirks in our system right now in regards to controlling it and making it the best that it can be. And all you got to do is look at Oregon and Colorado and Arizona, the states that have legalized marijuana, and look at the issues that they're going through. Medical marijuana is a different concept, no doubt about it. So yeah, please don't mix apples with oranges. My goodness.
Yeah, the studies clearly show in those states that have, and I've spoken to law enforcement officers, and of course, they're law enforcement officers, but those states that have legalized recreational marijuana have seen increases in traffic accidents and injuries and death related to traffic accidents. I mean, that's not in dispute. So again, is the revenue generated by recreational marijuana being legalized worth the social impacts that it'll have? That's the question that you really gotta ask. And again, I can see by some of the comments, I probably lost a few supporters, but that's just how I feel. I've seen it. I've seen the impacts with my family. I've seen impacts with close friends. And, I know there's this whole debate about whether or not it's a gateway drug. I have interviewed well over 100 drug addicts in my life, maybe even more. And I can tell you that 95% of them told me that was their gateway drug. And that's me. That's not a scientific study. That is real-time data from someone that has been in this field since I was 19 years old, that have spoken to countless amounts of people. Junior, you worked with a lot of kids. You mentioned that you were, was it the Youth Challenge program that you mentioned? I was a mentor for Youth Challenge. I had two students in Youth Challenge prior. What are your thoughts? You speak to these kids all the time. You speak to all of these guys.
Right. I see it the way Duke sees it for now, that I am for, medical marijuana. I've seen it with former football players that I played with that played at the next level. I've seen it with NBA players. I've seen it with a lot of veterans that does help with their ailments. Even some of the kapuna as far as, medically related. But as far as, for recreational, I've seen it with a lot of the cadets that we had come in through the 13 cycles I was there, that a lot of their issues stem from a lot of drug use. Even some of the families here in Hawaii, I mean, they literally, some parents, they'll give their kids, allowances. These kids, their families give them like marijuana to sell, whether at schools, around the corner, just to get money. So it's a very different lifestyle. But me, yeah, it was extremely detrimental to the case at the youth challenge.
The other big issue is this Obero ruling, um, Lieutenant Governor Aiona and Junior. The Obero ruling right now, as it stands, basically, and I'll let you explain, Lieutenant Governor, but Supreme Court ruled that the practices that we have been doing in our state was wrong. And the Supreme Court ruled that many of these inmates for serious crimes will be required to be released and charges dismissed because of this ruling. And the way to fix it is for the legislature to convene a special session and fix the law. And the legislature, as of this moment, still hasn't done it. I heard you make a plea. You and Junior made a plea to the governor and the lieutenant governor to convene that special session so we could fix this so we could keep these dangerous criminals in jail. Why the hesitancy from the current administration, and especially your opponent, to having a special session?
Yeah, I have no idea why, because Mel, if you read the Obero decision, both the dissenting opinion as well as the majority opinion, the Supreme Court was very clear and gave clear direction in regards to how this problem could be fixed by the legislature. All it is, they do one of two things. They can either repeal the current law that we have, and therefore the constitutional amendment, I believe that was passed by the people back in 1984, will then be the rule of law. Or what they can do is amend the current statute, which is about 100-year-old statute, so that it would encompass the constitutional amendment that was passed in 1982, which gave the prosecution now the ability to charge these crimes via a preliminary hearing. And that was made clear by the Supreme Court. Whether or not you agreed with their reasoning, the majority's reasoning in regards to why they ruled the way they did, it's irrelevant at this point in time. What needs to be done is that exactly what the Supreme Court has said. It doesn't take the Senate's already coming back into special session because they're going to have to confirm some of the appointees made by the governor, and so that's already one body coming back. The House has already said they'll come back. I have no idea what's the reason for the hesitation at this point in time. They keep talking about they're working it out. They're trying to working it out. I mean, I don't know what they're trying to work out. It doesn't take that long, and then once they do either one of the what I just said, they could have public hearings. They could have public hearings for a day or 2 days, make whatever amendments they need to make because they would propose a piece of legislation before they had the public hearings, and then come back and vote on the matter. I don't think they're going to get much public discussion because I think the majority of the people are in agreement that we need to get this issue solved so that the prosecutors can go on and do their business, but more importantly, so that the people of Hawaii can feel safe that the people who are charged with these serious crimes of murder and rape, they're not going to be put back on the streets. Now, the courts, at least on Oahu, I don't know about on Kauai. I think there's a couple of cases on Kauai where the courts are using a Hawaii penal code rule, or Hawaii rules of penal code, to keep them in jail for 90 days. I believe, based on what I've read, now it's just what I read in the paper, so I'm not privy to any of this, but from what I've read, it seems like the defense attorneys have a real strong case in saying that the circuit courts are not being that application of that rule is not constitutional. I think they have a good solid argument with that, and that's going to put more strain on the prosecution, and of course, it's going to allow more people to just get out of jail and basically have no bail pending the grand jury proceedings being held so that they can be indicted. And even then, I think that's going to be challenged also by defense attorneys. So this can be fixed real easy. It should be done, and it should be done now.
Yeah. And again, for Kauai, because for us to impanel a grand jury is difficult. It's not easy.
Yes,
We don't,
yes. You guys
so for
have,
the outer islands, the neighbor islands, it's crucial. And in talking to a few of our attorneys here, our prosecutors, the simplest way is to just repeal, which I believe is what the Supreme Court may have recommended, that the statute just be repealed, and we'll be okay. So the last couple of things, I have one favorite question I'll ask you for the end, but I kind of want to toss out two projects that are going on Oahu, big ones: Aloha Stadium and the rail. Uh, I know, Junior, you're a football player, buddy. Next level. I know you love playing in front of the crowds. When I heard them, this was last year or maybe the year before, when $350 million became available to build a brand new stadium. And I'm thinking, wow, we keep being told funding is an issue for all our social programs, but they found money. I'm afraid, and this is just speaking again as a citizen, not a scientific observation, but I'm afraid that this $350 million Aloha Stadium project may turn out to be like the $100 billion rail project if we're not careful. What are your, Junior, we're going to go with you because you're the athlete. Well, both of you are athletes, but you're the coach. Well, both of you are coaches. Anyway, Junior, what are your, what are your thoughts on this, man? The rail and my final question is tied into this to some extent. I'll save that one, but what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll open with this. I think Milton Friedman said that if you put the government in charge of the Sahara Desert, there'd be a shortage on sand. So with that said, I mean, there are other more pressing issues. I get with the entertainment thing, but people are they can't afford to live out here. The inflation, the affordability, the immigration rate. We have the highest immigration rate out of all 50 states. More people leave the state of Hawaii than any other state. But in regards to the stadium, I agree with Duke. I actually like the idea of putting the stadium on the campus. I don't know as far as legalities of that, but I'll defer the rest to Duke. As far as the stadium.
yeah, Mel, I got a briefing from the Stadium Authority a few days ago, and it was just a high level briefing, no politics involved, just to give me an idea of where they are with that project, where they have been, it's historical context, and then where they are today. And I asked them the question, I said, if what the governor proposes to do right now, which is he put a halt on the public-private partnership, and he wants the state to build it, how would that affect the construction time of the stadium? And they said it would delay it at least a couple of years, maybe less. I said, if you did what the governor wants you to do right now, would you have a contract in place for the governor to sign before he left office? And they said no. At the very earliest, we may be able to have a contract in place maybe 6 months to a year from now. And so the first thing that came to my mind, Mel, was, so why is he doing this? I don't understand why he's doing this. Secondly, they told me that $350 million that they've appropriated, and that's through special purpose revenue bonds now, okay? That's not cash coming out from general funds. They said that you would not be able to build the kind of stadium that he's talking about for $350 million. The price tag would be at least $450 to $500 million. And we all know, all you have to do is ask the question, what major CIP project in this state has the state built that has been on budget and on time? And you mentioned rail. Now, that's not a state project. That's a county project. But we did impose a surcharge in our GET taxes. And I think that it's ridiculous that we did that. but that was beyond my control. But I will tell you this, and I've already told the unions this. I said, if you're looking for an extension on that, because my understanding is that that surcharge will come to an end in 2026. And if you're looking for an extension on that, the answer is absolutely not. I will not approve any other extensions or any other surcharges in regards to payment for the rail. That rail project is a county project. The counties needed to take responsibility of that, both financially and from a management standpoint, a long time ago. And they just haven't done it. So that's my response to that. That's my response to the stadium. As Junior mentioned, we're both in favor of having a on-campus stadium. I don't know, though, if that's feasible. And when I say feasible, what I mean is I want the University of Hawaii to get a quality stadium. I want them to be able to compete as best as they can. And I don't want them to have a stadium that's not going to be, equivalent to or even better than the other teams in their conference. I'm not sure if they can build a 20 to 25,000 seat stadium of quality on campus. I'm not sure of that. So if that doesn't happen, then obviously we have to look at what's being proposed right now. They showed me the schematics on it, just the schematics, what they have, what they have been working on for the past 3 years and spent millions of dollars on. It looks feasible. It looks like it could be proper. There is housing involved in that. There are also mixed commercial use involved in that. And of course, the stadium is involved in that. I have to take a quick review of that, obviously, with the people in my cabinet, and we'll make the decision accordingly. But what the governor has done right now is he's delayed this project even further. So chalk up another project that's not going to come in on time and probably not on budget. But if you go to a PPP, well, then, budget is not as much of a concern than if we did it ourselves. But I'm not going to be in favor of having the state construct a stadium of that magnitude.
Well, thank you. Just a real quick clarification, that initial 0.5% of the GET for rail was voted on by the city and county of Honolulu voters. Not neighbor islands. I mean, that's like you said, it's a city and county project. It wasn't a state project. But yet they have tacked on an additional TAT tax from the neighbor islands. This one's near and dear to my heart because I testified at the state capitol, got chastised by a couple senators. But the people of Kauai, and I'm sure Maui and Big Island, because all the council chairs testified, were not supportive. We're not supportive of taking any monies from the neighbor islands for the rail project. And one of the biggest issues between the counties and the states, the counties and the state, is the TAT. And the fact that at one point, all the TAT monies were shared with the counties based on percentages. And then the state took all the TAT back and gave the counties the authority to charge their own TAT. And, we relied a lot on that TAT from the state because obviously for the impacts that the visit industry has put on our counties. I guess the bigger question is, what are your thoughts on, number one, allowing counties the flexibility to charge county taxes or surcharges or whatever it may be, that's county specific. There's a movement now where the city and county of Oahu or city and county of Honolulu is asking the legislature to release some of the traffic fine money. When I was on the council, when I was the president of the State Association of Counties, we lobbied that for several years. We didn't even ask for 50%. What we asked for, Lieutenant Governor? We asked for a portion of the unadjudicated fines. In other words, the fines that weren't contested, because all the efforts from the police officer to the prosecutor was county.
All county, exactly.
And the legislator shut us down. What are your thoughts on allowing the counties a little bit more flexibility in some home rule that would allow them to supplement the revenues and not be so reliant on the state. Just
No,
curious.
I'm with you, Mel. It's a short answer. I'm with you. I'm with you 100% on that. I recognize that injustice from when I was on the bench, and when I found out that all these traffic fines that we have, actually I was a prosecutor. I'm sorry, I was when I was a prosecutor back in the 80s, and I found out that everything that's being collected in traffic court is going to the state. How can that be? Like you said, it's the counties that do all the work. They're doing the traffic tickets, they're doing the parking tickets, they're patrolling, they're using their vehicles, etc., etc. It's the county police that enforce the laws, and they don't get a dime, not one dime. And I don't know how it's lasted this long, but that's an injustice. So, hey, I'm with you on that. Home rule, flexibility on fees, absolutely. What they don't realize is that might alleviate some of the pressure that the state puts on themselves in regards to funding. But we got this mentality, Mel, as you well know, that we control everything at the state level. All you got to do is look at our Department of Education, the only state in the union that has a state school board, one school board, and it's a state school board, completely state funded. If it's such a great model, why isn't this the model across the country? Now, I'm not saying that it's totally inefficient. It has some benefits, but overall, this is not the way our educational system should be. You're telling me that what's happening in Wailai Kahala is similar to what's happening in Lehui, Kauai, or in Hilo, Hawaii? I don't think so. So I'm with you, Mel. Easy, quick answer to that.
Well, thank you. I can say it is inefficient with the way the current DOE structure is. Ask any, and we got a few of the DOE employees here watching right now. I challenge anyone, or I shouldn't say challenge. That's a horrible word. Does anyone believe that we should go into uh, regional, or however you want to call it, school districts, individual independent school districts, as opposed to this current one school district for the state? I don't. This we're the only ones that do it. It isn't. You're right. There are some positives, but the negatives far outweigh the positives, and our kids suffer at the end, right? It's all about our kids. Yeah, we suffer. Um, uh, Junior, we're out of time, and I could go on all night, but here's one of our DOE. One entire district is stupid. I cannot repeat what else he said. One state superintendent overseeing every island is moronic. Each island should be their own. Yeah. Another, hell no. I mean, this is, I was talking about an earlier forum that I had, and a lot of the questions comes down to one. We talk about a lot of symptoms in government, whether it's state or local or what. And the fact of the matter is, we are not communicating with the people, with the stakeholders. Decisions are constantly being made by people who think they know better, and they don't. And I'm not just talking about state level. I'm talking at all levels. But how, Junior, I'll give this to you. How do we get back to that? Allowing our people on the street, the people on the front line, the school teachers, the doctors, the people that are doing the work, having them part of this decision-making process, or at least a fact-finding process, and not relying on special interests, not relying on all these outside influences that are flowing in to our elections. How do we get our state back to a point where my voice as a citizen matters? I talk about the voter turnout rate. That is why, because people have given up, because they don't feel they're part of the engagement of government. Junior, how do we fix that?
I think for a lot of the different coalitions, a lot of it is top heavy. I mean, if you speak to the members directly, a lot of them they're going to share what's really going on, and in the end, it's literally going into communities. I always say this, that's why we have 2 ears and one mouth. We should be listening more to the people. Now they're going to have their complaints, they're going to have their grievances, but at the same time, many of them come with the solutions. They've already done the footwork. They know whatever policies or variables they need to change. And it's literally, I strongly believe that is listening to the people, being proactive, and Duke always says having the political will to execute what the people want to see. That's one of the reasons why I even ran, because when I talk in the community, whether I ride in the Ubers, I'm at IHOP, I'm at the pops, they're talking one thing, but when I meet with some of the people at the Square building, Britannia, they're saying something totally different. And when I saw the disconnect between those in office who are supposed to be public servants, they're not resonating, reflecting the will of people. And that's why I'm running. Now, as far as that goes or how that looks, I'm open to anything. And that's why I'm so fortunate. I'm happy to be on the ticket. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mel,
I
in
think
response to your question and how do we get the voice of the people, elevated, right? And I think that's your question, right? How do we elevate the voice of the people? You know, we're running, well, I'm running and Junior's running because we just want to serve. And we understand that we're public servants. And I think this is where we lost our way, especially in the last, um, cycles, the last couple of cycles in regards to the executive branch in particular. I mean, this is the office that we're running for. And when I say we've lost our way, what I mean is that, look, for the last, 3.5 years, we've been living under an emergency proclamation by the governor. An emergency proclamation means basically that you are now leading under a dictator, someone who can dictate what we do and how we do it and when we do it. And that's just not how it should be. And so, yeah, and I mentioned it earlier, I mean, about trust, that the administration, my opponent included, didn't trust us to be able to understand what we needed to do during this pandemic. The mitigation factors were out there: a mask, hygiene, right? Keep your social distance. If you're not feeling well, stay home. We knew who the vulnerable were. Stay away from them if you're not feeling well. Isolate them if you need to. If you need to quarantine them, then you quarantine them. And life goes on. But they didn't trust us to understand that and to understand also the severity of this virus. And I don't think there's anybody in the state of Hawaii that didn't take this virus seriously, that it was deadly and you could get severely sick as a result of it. And so when you have that combination, this is why both Junior and I are running right now. We got frustrated like everybody else, and we need to get this fixed. We have a vacuum in leadership right now. We have leadership that just doesn't give the people a voice. And so my response to you is simply, let's start getting a robust two-party system out there where we have checks and balances right now, where people have to be transparent. When I say people, I'm talking about your elected public servants. Let's have term limits. Why can't we have term limits? The corruption that we're facing right now, a big part of it is a result of a one-party dominance and not having a two-party system, and the fact that they can serve for as long as they want to serve. There's only one branch of government right now that can serve for as long as they want, and that's the legislative branch. Even the executive branch, judges have a mandatory retirement age of 70. The governor has only 2 terms. The county council only has 2 terms. But legislators can serve for as long as they want. Your state senator who's in jail right now has served for well over, I believe, close to 30 years. My opponent has served for over 18 years. His lieutenant governor has served for over 20 years. They got a combined total amount of service in the legislature of over 40 years. When you serve that long and you serve with one dominant party, there's a culture of entitlement. And with this entitlement, what do you expect the result to be? Exactly what we're seeing right now. So how do we elevate the voice of the people? Get people in there who will listen and who will obviously be your check and it'll be your balance. And so we're all about encompassing. We've gone around the state and let everybody know when they ask for what's your solution, dude? How are you going to help us with our resources? So I'm going to go right to the source. I'm going to go to you. I'm going to ask you in the community, the people who have been doing the lo'i and have been to the parks and been doing the trails and been fixing that. What's your issues? What do you see? What are your challenges? There's nobody that has ever been a governor that has been an expert in every single area that we face challenges on. Neither are the people on this broadcast are experts. But we all have ideas, we all have opinions, and it should be heard. And it should be given the weight that it needs to be given. No one person has the answer. It's a collaborative thing. And as a leader, that's what you do. You understand that. You put it together. You weigh it. And when you make your decision, it's based on what you've heard. It's based on what's applicable in regards to rules and policies and everything else. And in the end, it's what's best for the people of Hawaii. Not for a special interest, not for who has the loudest voice, not for who has the most money, but for the best interest of the people of Hawaii. And that's what's missing right now. We have people who are not understanding that they are elected public servants. It's not a career. It's not a profession. It's not about having a title. It's about serving the people of Hawaii. And I would hope that the people of Hawaii understand that. They get more involved in who their representative is, letting their opinion and their position known, and staying on top of it and getting involved. So, Mel, I don't know if you mentioned it, but you mentioned something about the voter apathy. 500,000 people didn't vote in the primary election. That's 60% of registered voters. Do you think there's enough votes out there for us to win? Absolutely. Why aren't the people voting? From our experience, it's what Mel just said. Why should I vote? It's not going to make a difference. We're going to get the same results. And this is when I asked him, in the last 4 years, have you been affected by the policies and the mandates that have come down from the executive branch? And I don't think there's anyone out there who can't say that they weren't affected. Whether it's positive or negative, you were affected. But in most instances, it wasn't too much positive. The negative outweighed the positive. And as a result of that, this is why you vote. Because you have to make that difference. If you don't, then that difference is not going to be made. And the policies that you just went through for the last 3-4 years are going to remain the same. The only promise I'll make to anybody that I've come in contact with is if you don't vote for us, if you vote for my opponent, who again, has been in office for 18 years, and his running mate has been in office for over 20 years, I guarantee you, I promise you, that in 4 years, you're going to be talking about the same issues. And you're going to look at yourself and go, why am I talking about the same issues? It's either because you didn't vote or you voted for the status quo. So I'm sorry, maybe that's part of my closing statement here, Mel, but that's my answer to your question in regards to how do we elevate the voices in the community and make them a part of government. So it's a combination of both.
Right
Yes.
here.
There you go.
Just came in today. I cannot emphasize enough. I've been saying this for quite a while now. The importance to vote. And when Kauai less than 40%, that says that people have disengaged from their government. They've disengaged. It comes to your house. You go to your kitchen table. You get a black pen. You fill in a couple of squares, and you mail it in. They're not doing that. That's because they have disengaged. And yes, cross-party voting is allowed in the general election. And
it's not cross-party voting, Bill.
Yeah,
it's
not anymore.
Vote for the person. Vote for the person that you think is going to be the best representative for all of you.
I got to tell you guys, and June, I'm going to give you an opportunity for some closing comments as well. But I got to tell you guys, I get a lot of flack because I brought Republicans onto the show. I have made it so clear. I don't see a D. I don't see an R. I see Duke Aiona and I see Junior Tupa'i. That's who I see. I don't see the R next to your name. I don't. And because you know why? Because I'm selfish. And I don't want to be locked down to one party who I may not agree with the candidate in that party, whether Democrat or Republican or independent or green, whatever party. I don't want to be tied to a label because I have my own set of opinions. I worry about my kids who I no longer have here in Hawaii. I don't want to see others go through what I went through. So for me, it's not about the D, it's not about the R, it's about the person. It's about the heart, it's about the passion, it's about the willingness to stand up and speak for the people that don't have an opportunity to speak up. I support Duke and I support Junior. That's like a very dangerous thing for me to say because I'm also running for office. And I hope you guys know, say, oh, he voted for a Republican, oh, he voted for a Democrat. I'll be voting for Democrats and Republicans in this election for different races. So come on, guys. Let's find the candidates that are going to do what we need to get done, and stop focusing on this party. This party right now, to be honest, and I know you guys are Republicans, and no, I mean no offense, is messed up on both sides of the aisles, from the national politics, national offices, Congress. You notice they don't want term limits either, Congress. How they just take care of themselves. Both sides. So I look at the person, I look at the candidates, I look at their platforms, and I vote accordingly. And I hope you guys do the same. So, guys, please, 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 please vote. Junior,
Yes, sir.
what you got, Junior? Your closing comments, my friend. And again, thanks for being here, man. I appreciate you, buddy.
No, thank you, Mel, for the opportunity. Thank you to all the listeners and the viewers. I believe that longevity does not equal productivity. Duration in office does not equal donation of service to the community. It doesn't. I mean, as Duke alluded to, our opponents have been in office for over 40 years. They've already had their opportunity. And people say, they might have better ideas. And that, if they had the better ideas, how come they haven't been implemented? How come you're not seeing them in government right now? And enough with the rhetoric. Talk is cheap. There have been promises made, promises broken. And I feel that, Duke and I will bring the change that people here in Hawaii are actually looking for. And we do have the political will to actually be proactive and to put, feet to the words that the people have been telling us, for the past months campaigning, whether in Molokai, Maui, Big Island, Kauai, Oahu. The trajectory of our state has not been the direction that people want to see. And we feel that we are the solution, the Aiona Tupa'i administration. And I'm just humbled and, just to be here with Duke and to have the opportunity to serve the people of Hawaii. It is an honor and a privilege. And no matter what happens in 19 days, I'm going to let the people's vote speak for itself. But I do hope that they would actually look at the candidates and actually vote, accordingly. And like I said, the metric that they've been using, it doesn't work, because Einstein said insanity is doing the same thing, expecting different results. Thank you again, Mel.
All right, Duke, I will give you an opportunity to share your closing comments, and why should our viewers vote for you and Junior in the general election?
It was a editorial columnist who said that this gubernatorial election, is not about the issues. It comes down to character, it comes down to integrity, and it comes down to competence. I would agree with that. As Junior already mentioned, our opponents have had decades of service in the legislature. If what they are proposing right now is the solution to the long-standing issues that we are currently talking about, then we wouldn't be talking about it right now. But we are. And so when we talk about competence, we talk about character, and we talk about integrity, I would say that this is where I differentiate myself, and Junior differentiates himself from our opponents. You've heard Junior's background. I think probably the most significant element in his background is the fact that he's never been elected to public service. He's never been an elected public representative. And you say, how can it be? Because that's what the nature of it is all about. It's about understanding that it's about serving. And he understands that. I can tell you that. He really understands that. He understands what it means to be a team player. He's articulate. He's intelligent. He has a mind of his own. He knows how to organize. He knows how to solve a problem. And most importantly, he knows how to listen to people before a decision is made. From my perspective, 12 years as a judge is what my whole professional life has been built upon. And through that experience, I've learned not only, like I said, how to be collaborative, but how to be fair and impartial. How to understand how you do not let emotion and passion and bias cloud your decision making. As a judge, you not only rule on motions, but you also serve as a trier of fact for cases which involve two parties, whether it's a civil case or a criminal case. You need to be able to listen to both sides, listen to their arguments, listen to what they're saying and how it relates to the law that applies. And then you have to analyze that. You have to weigh what they're saying. And then ultimately, you make the decision based on the ruling of the law and the state of the facts. In addition to that, you have to be able to explain your decision, your basis for it, why it was done. Decision making today, like I said, is not done in that fashion. Decision making in the political world is, as Mel pointed out, is really done by partisan politics. Who has the loudest voice? Who's the most radical? Is it in line with what I believe in or I don't believe in? And you all know it. And it's on both sides, as Mel pointed out, on the Republican side and on the Democrat side. That if you're not with me, you're against me. And that's how decisions are made. Who has the loudest voice? Who has the inside track to whether it's the chair of the agriculture department or to the chair of the budget department or budget committee, I should say, or who has a direct line to the Senate president, which, by the way, resides on Kauai. That's how decisions are made. And it can't be made that way. And that's how our opponents have been doing it for the last 40 plus years. So we bring that difference in regards to decision making. Making sure that when we decide something, it's done fairly, it's done impartially, it's done collaboratively, and ultimately it's done for what's in the best interest of the people of Hawaii. Nothing more and nothing less. Decisions are not easy to make, but a leader is not afraid to make those decisions. I've been making decisions my whole life, and so has Junior. Where there's a coach, where there's a mentor at the Youth Challenge Academy, myself, where there's a judge, where there's an attorney, where there's a father, where there's a coach, where there's a teacher, we all have to make decisions. And I'll put my reputation up and say that my decisions have been credible. They may not have always been agreed to, but they've been credible. I've had a basis for all of my decisions that I made while on the bench, as well as in the courtroom. And as a result of that, this is what differentiates us from our opponents. Within the next 2.5 weeks, when you have this opportunity to vote, I would hope that you would look at those factors. Forget about the cultural legacy that you had or the political legacy that you had, that I've always voted Democrat, or that, I belong to this union. and this is the way they want me to vote. Look at the individuals. Look at what they stand for. And yeah, we're not going to agree on everything. I tell you that. I will also tell you that you're never going to have the perfect candidate, the one that aligns with you 100%. It's never going to happen. But if there's a couple of things that we did in this election that I think everybody is tired of, one is that we never made a promise to anybody. Throughout this entire campaign, I never made a promise to anybody that we would come in and we would do this. Secondly, I always said that we will listen to what you have to say. You will be a part of the decision making. I'm going to rely upon our grassroots organizations, our community organizations, our NGOs, our nonprofits. I'm going to rely on your input, and you'll always be a part of the decision making. I haven't picked my cabinet, unlike my opponent. His cabinet's already picked. In fact, right after the primary, in his mind, he had already won the election. And as a result of that, they've basically folded camp and are measuring the drapes for Washington Place. Is that arrogant? I believe that's arrogant. Is that disrespectful for the voters of Hawaii? I think it is. And this is why he's declined all the debates that were remaining in our schedule with Hawaii News Now, KITV, and PBS. You don't believe me? Go ask him. Somebody asked him that today. In fact, I got a text from somebody that said, "Are you going to debate with Duke?" And he said, "Absolutely not. I don't need to. I've already had 2 debates with him. That's enough." I mean, the people of Hawaii deserve better. You've deserved better on all of these issues that you are, again, repeating over and over and over again. Things don't have to be this way. They can be much better. And this is why a vote for Aiona and Tupa'i on November 8th would be humbly appreciated. And we humbly, again, ask for that vote. Thank you, Mel. Thank you for allowing this. I do have one more announcement, if I can, Mel. We're going to have a rally on Monday, this Monday, at the War Memorial Hall on the I guess is it called the church side of the hall. It's going to be from 5:30 to 8. Junior and I will be there. We'd like to meet as many people as we can and have this one last big rally before people get out there to vote. So again, that's on Monday from 5:30 to 8 at the War Memorial Exhibition Hall, I believe it is. 5:30 to 8. Thank you, Mel. Thank you to all the people who tuned in also. Thank you for all of your comments. Really appreciate it. All of it will be obviously taken into consideration, and of course, we look forward to being the next governor and lieutenant governor of the state of Hawaii.
Well, I thank you both for being here tonight, and I just want to share a little bit and for our viewers that's been around for a long time. You already know this, but for those of you that are new, you don't. But I already said I met Duke 20 years ago when he became the lieutenant governor, and I became my first won my first council term, and I sat on his statewide anti-drug coalition, and just I've known him for a long time. I just met Junior, but after tonight, I feel like I know him a long time. We're not going to agree on everything. In fact, I think there's a couple of issues that we don't agree on. But I want to share this because I think it's important, because you talked about character. You talked about integrity. Josh Green used to be a regular on our show early on when we first started doing COVID. And then he was very confusing. It was confusing a lot of our viewers. It was confusing me. And I'm a very critical person. I have every right to be critical of my elected officials. I as a voter, as a citizen, as a resident, I have criticized Governor Ige. I have criticized everyone at every level, both on the show and on the street. I stand by what I say. I stand by what I do. I remain friends with Mayor Kawakami, Senate President Kochi, Everyone that we have had disagreements with, it's always been respectful. Well, I'm going to share this because this talks about character. I was trying to see, I don't know if you guys can see this, but the light is probably going to be in the way. Hold on. Let me open up my screen here. April 8th. Your antagonistic approach towards me defies comprehension and is so disingenuous. You are uninformed and you choose the wrong people to listen to. That was on April 6th. At 6:43 a.m. Yes, you see the picture on the top. That's Josh Green. He sends me this text because he apparently watches the show. I'm sure he's watching right now. And he didn't like what I had to say about the confusion that was being created. Whether you agree or disagree with policies, it was not consistent. It was never consistent. It changed on a daily basis. You had Governor Ige saying one thing, Josh Green saying another. I raised that in our show constantly. Our viewers, the villagers as we call them, we know that. I call it as I see it. So that was in April. On July, Charlie and I was on the show. We start our show at 7:00. Charlie was talking not even about COVID. And I get this text while I was live. That's on, hang on there. July 22nd at 7:17, right just in the start of our show. You have a pathological obsession with me, get some help. That is not character. That is not the Josh Green that you see on the commercials. I'm going to get a lot of criticism for saying this, but I want you all to know that character matters. And I don't want a governor who, if I disagree with him, says that I'm pathologically obsessed with him because I disagree and that I need to get some help. I don't need a governor who, because I disagree, tells me that I'm listening to the wrong people. See, one thing, and that's what I love about the two of you. There is no right and there is no wrong in politics. I tell this to all the new council members that I've served with. They came in first timers. I would tell them, there is no right and there is no wrong. Everybody's opinion matters. And when you disagree in that fashion and you take a personal shot at someone that disagrees with you, it's not character. That's not character. And I share that because I think it's important, because in the next couple of weeks, you're going to be flooded with commercials about how nice this guy is and about how much he has done. I show the text because I want you guys to know that is Josh Green. That's the Josh Green that I've known for a very long time. That's the Josh Green that I picked up at the airport and drove to functions on Kauai many years ago. And for him to say that I was pathologically obsessed with him and I need to go get some help because we disagreed in policy. The bottom line is I don't want him as my governor. And that's just I had to share that. And should show those texts to the media. They're not going to print them. Mm-hmm. They wouldn't print it. First day after the election, first day after the primary election, the media star advertiser comes out. Aiona and Tupa'i already at odds. Mm-hmm. To something to that effect. You guys remember that?
Yep.
I almost blew my bladder. Like, guys, they just got elected. Already at odds.
Right.
Character matters. And gentlemen, Duke, for as long as I've known you, and for all the people that I know personally that know you, that have worked with you, you're all about character. Junior, in a short time that I've known you, you're a man of high character, high integrity. And I appreciate you guys. I wish you guys all the best. And,
Mel, thank you very much. If I can, Mel, I just want to, because I know people think, oh, well, this is just a love fest between you and I. And you're right, we don't agree on a lot of things, not a lot of things, but we don't agree on some things, and it doesn't have to get heated. If you disagree with somebody, it doesn't have to get heated. And I just want to read to you another post that if you didn't hear about this one, you should hear about this. And this comes from somebody that I'll identify who that person is at the very end, but you probably know as I read it. And it's talking about character. Here we go. Very disappointed for Vicky. Very proud of how she handled defeat. Classy, but having been married to her for 25 years, I wasn't surprised. As for Green, I can't bring myself to congratulate him. I've done a lot of research on his past. I know he is not a moral man. Frankly, if Sylvia Luke had not won, I'd be voting GOP for the first time in my life. I disagree with many of Duke Iona's beliefs, but he is a decent, moral man of good character. Thanks again, my friends, Ben Cayetano. I share that just because like I said, I hope you guys have a full panel of evaluation. I also hope that you all will look at the Civil Beat Forum, that one of the only two that we participated in, as well as the KHON debate. That should be on our website, and it should also be the Civil Beat Forum should be on his. Please review that. And just take into to mind what I said in regards to what this election is coming down to. It's coming down to character, it's carrying down to integrity, and it's coming down to competency. And so with that, Mel, I thought I just wanted to share that. And again, thanks again, Mel, for everything that you've done in your service. And of course, what you're doing with your blog program. And again, it looks like you got a great crowd. They look like they're very intelligent. They're very into the civics aspect of government, and I applaud that. I don't think I always agree with all of the comments, but hey, as you mentioned, there's no right, there's no wrong. And if I can't understand that, and I can't take that into consideration and really listen to what's being said, then I don't belong to be here right now. So thanks again.
Awesome. Well, thank you guys. Thank your families for allowing you to share you folks with us. I always say, man, it's the candidates. That's only one part. It's the families, the wives, the husbands, the kids. That's fighting the fight right alongside, and got to put up with all the negative press and all of that garbage. So yeah, the spouses and the family. So thank you guys so much, and appreciate viewers. You guys amazing, man. You guys amaze me every single night we do a show. Appreciate you guys more than you guys know. So with that, folks, enjoy you guys rest of the weekend. We're not on tomorrow night. Tomorrow night we got our county spooktacular. I'm gonna be dressing up as something, I forget. And then next week we got Anna will be back. She had audio problems the other night, so she'll be back on Tuesday. Wednesday, we have Dr. Altenberg, Dr. Tim Brown back to give us an update on COVID. And we're still waiting for the phone to ring from other candidates, guys. Great opportunity to share. So, last thing, promise. Please vote. Doggone it. Vote. All right. We love you guys. God bless. We'll see you guys the next time. You guys take care.
Thank you.